The Grand Pavilion at Al Maha Resort shimmered under the late afternoon desert sun on October 12, 2025. Golden light filtered through intricate mashrabiyah screens, casting lattice patterns across white marble floors veined with gold. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen rain above tables set for 300 guests. Outside, falconers in traditional kanduras stood beside imported white Arabian horses, their manes braided with silk ribbons. This was the wedding of Sheikh Tariq bin Khalid Al Mansour, 38, heir to a logistics empire that moved oil, goods, and influence across the Gulf. Tariq stood at the center of it all, tall and composed in a bespoke bisht edged with black silk thread. His bride-to-be, Layla Al-Harbi, 29, waited in an adjacent suite, her emerald green gown embroidered with thousands of Swarovski crystals. Their union had been announced in discreet society pages as a perfect alliance, old money meeting new ambition. Layla's father owned half the commercial real estate in Sharjah. Tariq controlled shipping lanes from Jebel Ali to Singapore. At 4:47 p.m., as the call to prayer echoed faintly from distant minarets, the ceremony began. Guests rose. The officiant recited verses. Tariq placed the ring on Layla's finger, a platinum band set with a 7-carat emerald. Cameras clicked softly. Drones captured aerial shots for the private family archive. Then, without warning, Tariq swayed. He reached for the podium, missed, and dropped to one knee. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Layla froze, veil trembling. Security moved in. A doctor, Dr. Faisal Rahman, the family's personal physician, was already kneeling beside him. Tariq's face had paled to ash. His breathing came in shallow bursts. "I can't feel my legs," he whispered. Within seconds, medics lifted him onto a stretcher. The pavilion emptied in orderly panic as guests were ushered toward waiting Bentleys. The wedding dissolved into sirens and flashing lights. By 5:22 p.m., Tariq was in the emergency suite at a private clinic in Jumeirah. Monitors beeped steadily. Blood pressure 85/50. Heart rate erratic. Initial tests ruled out stroke or cardiac arrest. No alcohol had been served yet, no food consumed beyond a ceremonial date. Toxicology was ordered urgently. The results arrived at 7:14 p.m. Dr. Rahman reviewed the panel twice before calling the attending toxicologist. Traces of digoxin, a cardiac glycoside derived from foxglove, were present in Tariq's bloodstream. Not a massive dose, but enough to cause bradycardia, hypotension, and collapse in a man with no prior heart condition. Digoxin poisoning. Rare outside medical contexts or deliberate administration. Tariq stabilized after activated charcoal, for fluids, and digoxin-specific antibody fragments. By midnight he was conscious, though weak. Police arrived discreetly. This was no accident. Someone had poisoned the groom on his wedding day. Investigators began with the obvious. Who had access to Tariq in the hours before the ceremony? Staff at the resort, the bridal party, family members. But the dose timing pointed to ingestion between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m., the window when Tariq had been in his private preparation suite, receiving only close aides and one unexpected visitor. That visitor was not on the guest list. Her name was Elena Marcos, 34, a Filipina national who had lived in Dubai for 9 years. She had arrived at the resort at 1:45 p.m. in a black SUV with tinted windows. Security footage showed her entering through a service gate after a brief exchange with a guard who later claimed he recognized her as a family acquaintance. She carried a small insulated cooler bag labeled as containing traditional herbal tea for the groom, a custom sometimes observed in Emirati weddings. Elena left at 2:38 p.m. Tariq drank the tea at 3:15 p.m., alone, as part of a quiet pre-ceremony ritual. The connection was not random. Elena had worked as Tariq's personal assistant from 2016 to 2022. She handled schedules, travel, confidential correspondence. She was efficient, discreet, multilingual. Over time, the professional boundary blurred. By 2019, they had begun a private relationship. It lasted 3 years, intense, hidden, complicated by Tariq's position and family expectations. In early 2022, Elena discovered she was pregnant. Tariq offered support but insisted the child could not be acknowledged publicly. He arranged for her to relocate to Manila with a generous settlement, monthly payments, a condominium in Makati, tuition funds for the child. Elena accepted. She left Dubai quietly in April 2022, 6 months pregnant. The child, a boy named Matteo, was born in July 2022. Tariq never met him in person but continued financial support through intermediaries. Contact dwindled to quarterly updates via encrypted messages. Until 6 months before the wedding. Elena had returned to Dubai in April 2025 on a tourist visa. Officially, she was visiting friends. Unofficially, she sought closure. Tariq's engagement to Layla had been announced publicly. Elena felt erased. She requested one final meeting. Tariq agreed, reluctantly. They met twice in neutral locations, once at a cafe in Dubai Marina, once in a rented apartment in JLT. Elena brought photographs of Matteo, now 3 years old, with Tariq's dark eyes and quiet smile. She asked for acknowledgement, perhaps a trust fund in the boy's name. Tariq refused anything that could surface publicly. He increased the monthly allowance instead. The meetings ended tensely. Elena left Dubai again in July 2025, or so Tariq believed. But she had not. Investigators traced her movements. She had rented a small apartment in Dera under an assumed name. She worked remotely as a freelance translator. Bank records showed large withdrawals, funds used to purchase digoxin tablets from an unregulated online pharmacy in Eastern Europe. Digoxin is tightly controlled in the UAE. Obtaining it required bypassing legitimate channels. The cooler bag contained sweetened hibiscus tea laced with crushed tablets. The dose was calculated precisely, not to kill, but to incapacitate. Elena later told interrogators she wanted Tariq to collapse publicly, to humiliate him on the day he married another woman while denying their son a name. Why the blood test mattered, she said in her recorded statement, voice steady but eyes distant. I knew they would find it. I wanted them to know it came from me. From what he left behind. Tariq recovered fully within 48 hours. The wedding was postponed indefinitely. Layla's family withdrew quietly. No scandal was allowed to attach. Tariq issued a brief statement through his office, a medical episode due to an undiagnosed sensitivity. No mention of poison. But the investigation continued. Elena was arrested at Dubai International Airport 2 weeks later, attempting to board a flight to Manila. She carried a single suitcase and a photograph of Matteo tucked inside her passport. In custody, she confessed without resistance. She described measuring the digoxin at her kitchen table, dissolving it into the tea concentrate, rehearsing the handover to the guard she had tipped generously. The case never reached public trial. It was handled discreetly under UAE privacy laws protecting prominent families. Elena received a 7-year sentence for attempted harm and poisoning. Tariq did not press for maximum penalty. Through lawyers, he arranged for Matteo's future care to be secured independently of Elena's imprisonment. Years later, in quiet circles of Dubai society, the story circulated in fragments. Some called it revenge. Others saw it as tragedy, a woman discarded, a child caught between worlds, a man who controlled everything except the shadow he had cast. Tariq never remarried. He focused on business, expanded ports in Fujairah, funded scholarships anonymously for Filipino students. Once a year, on Matteo's birthday, an envelope arrived in Manila, unsigned, but always on time. Elena served her sentence in a low-security facility. She wrote letters to her son, though he was too young to read them. When released, she planned to return to Cebu, to live near her aging parents, to rebuild. The pavilion at Al Maha Resort still hosts weddings. The Mashrabiyah screens still cast their patterns. But staff speak in lowered voices about the afternoon the groom fell, and how one cup of tea unraveled a carefully constructed life. In the desert, secrets rarely stay buried. Sometimes they arrive in a cooler bag, sweetened, and wait for the perfect moment to surface.